Chapter 11, Flames of Defiance. July 16, 2040, 1934 Europan calendar. Imperial Palace, Schwarzgrad, capital of the East Europan Imperial Alliance. Europa continent. The war room of the Imperial Palace, once a sanctum of calculated ambition, now thrummed with an undercurrent of dread, its obsidian table scarred by frantic fingers and scattered with half-finished maps. Ragnite lamps flickered erratically, casting elongated shadows that danced like specters across the tapestries of ancient triumphs, faded depictions of Valkyrian legions crushing lesser foes under iron heels. The air was thick with the metallic tang of urgency, laced with the faint, acrid bite of unlit cigars crushed in ashtrays. Outside, the spires of Schwarzgrad pierced a bruised dawn sky, oblivious to the cataclysm unfolding within its heart. Emperor Adolfo Gaius von Regenrave occupied the throne-like chair at the table's head, his posture a rigid bastion of imperial steel, though his gloved hands betrayed him, clenched into fists that whitened the knuckles beneath. Arrayed before him were the remnants of his inner circle: General Heinrich Stahl, his burly frame slumped in uncharacteristic defeat, a fresh bandage wrapping his scarred jaw from an unrelated training mishap; Admiral Isolde Brandt, no, not the Admiral herself, but her second-in-command, Captain Erich Lang, who had limped in on a crutch mere hours ago, his uniform singed and salt-crusted from the ironclad's desperate escape; Colonel Victor Kraus, spectacles askew and face ashen, clutching a sheaf of blood-stained dispatches salvaged from the sea; and Minister Ilara Voss, her elegant facade cracked, fingers twisting a propaganda broadsheet into ruinous folds. The room's heavy doors groaned open one final time, admitting a telegraph operator, pale and trembling, his hands stained blue from ink. He saluted stiffly, avoiding the Emperor's gaze as he extended a sealed cylinder stamped with the ironclad's eagle. "Your Excellency, from Captain Lang, Fire Emergency Boy." The fleet." "Speak." Von Regenrave's voice cracked like a whip, his onyx eyes boring into the man like bayonets. The operator flinched, unrolling the parchment with shaking hands. His voice, when it came, was a mechanical drone, as if reciting an obituary for an empire. "To High Command, Schwarzgrad, invasion force engaged American defenders off Alaska. Enemy fleet, flat-decked behemoths unscathed by our salvos. Their SKY demons descended like plague, bombs from the clouds, missiles that hunt like wolves. Submarines struck from the void, torpedoes rending hulls without mercy. Dreadnoughts vaporized in seconds, escorts shattered before firing a shot. 99% lost. Ironclad survives, damaged, limps home. Admiral Brandt. Fallen. Retreat executed. The void devours. End transmission." The words hung in the air like poison gas, the operator's voice fading into a hush that swallowed the room whole. Captain Lang, silent until now, stepped forward on his crutch, his face a map of burns and salt-streaked exhaustion. "It is as written, Your Excellency. I was on the bridge when the first wave hit, their flying machines, they blotted the sun, dropping fire that pierced our armor like parchment. The Thunderer, Colossus, Fury, all gone in flames." Admiral Brandt fought to the last, ordering counterfire even as the deck split beneath her. She went down with the colors flying. His voice broke, the weight of 15,000 souls, crews vaporized in an instant, crushing the admission from him. Silence reigned, a void deeper than the Atlantis depths. General Stahl's massive fists hammered the table once, splintering a ragnite inlay with a crack like thunder, but no roar followed, only a guttural curse swallowed in his throat. Colonel Kraus adjusted his spectacles futilely, as if clarity might rewrite the dispatch. His mind, ever the scalpel, dissected the impossibility. How had the Americans anticipated? Spies? Betrayal? The question gnawed unspoken. Minister Voss's silken poise shattered. She pressed a hand to her mouth, stifling a gasp that echoed her unraveling narratives, how to spin annihilation as victory. Then came the fury, a tempest incarnate. Emperor von Regenrave surged to his feet, the throne chair toppling with a metallic screech that reverberated off the stone walls. His face contorted, veins bulging like rivers of wrath across his brow, his voice erupting in a bellow that shook the ragnite lamps to frenzy. Annihilation? 99%? By phantom fleets and SKY witches. He seized the dispatch, crumpling it into a venomous ball and hurling it into the nearest sconce, where it ignited in a brief, spiteful flare. We are the Empire. Heirs of the Valkyrie, crushers of the Federation's dreams, scourge of Vinland's seas. And these upstarts from the void dare to mock us with such slaughter. Brant, my Iron Admiral, drowned like a common deckhand. The ironclad, symbol of our unyielding might, crawls home like a whipped cur. He paced the room like a caged direwolf, his cape swirling in eddies of rage, boots thudding against the flagstones with each furious stride. How? How did they know? Our plans were sealed in blood oaths, couriers silenced, signals encrypted in the best imperial code. No leak, no traitor, yet they waited, fangs bared, to eviscerate us. His fist slammed down again, shattering a crystal goblet into azure shards that scattered like fallen stars. This is no defeat, it is an insult. A slap from children playing at gods with their parlor sorceries, televisions and floating butlers turned to weapons of the abyss. The High Command recoiled instinctively, Stahl averting his eyes, Kraus shrinking into his chair, Voss murmuring placating nothings that died unborn. Lang, the bearer of doom, stood frozen, his crutch trembling under the onslaught. Von Regenrave whirled on them, his gaze a furnace. Speak. Or do you cower like darksons in their pits? Stahl rose first, his voice a gravelly rumble forged in the fires of desperation. Your Excellency, the loss, it guts our northern flank. But their sorcery has limits, they defend, not strike unbidden. We press the advantage of numbers, of ground where their sky demons falter. Kraus nodded, seizing the thread with analytical fervor. Indeed. Intelligence gaps persist, how they divined our intent remains a shadow. But the exposition's fruits, their machines crave resources unknown here. Uranium, they call it. Strike at their joints, Vinland trade lanes, Federation supply convoys. Bleed them while we reverse their captured scraps. Voss, recovering her weave, added silkily, and the narrative, my Emperor, the people hunger for glory. Frame this as a probe repelled by Imperial Valor, the ironclad's survival a testament to our resilience. Rally the legions, the void tested us, we emerge tempered. Divert the fury inward, intensify the darkson purges for labor, fuel the forges with their sweat. Von Regenrave halted his pacing, breath heaving, the storm in his eyes coalescing into glacial resolve. Fury lingered, a smoldering coal in his chest, but empires did not crumble on rage alone, they feasted on it. He righted his chair with deliberate calm, resuming his seat like a predator coiling anew. Yes, yes. This a massacre is but a skirmish in the Grand Chronicle. The Americans bleed ink from their wonders, not blood, we drown in the latter, and it forges us unbreakable. Our conquest endures, no pause, no retreat. Accelerate the plans. General Stahl, triple the border legions, mobilize the reserves from the eastern marches. Flood the forges, churn out tanks and dreadnoughts as if the Valkyrie themselves demand it. Aim not for their frozen rock again, but the heart, their central bastions, the Washington they prattle of. Swarm their seas with wolf packs, harry their skies with numbers until their miracles falter. Stahl saluted, fire rekindling in his eyes. The ground will drink their arrogance, Your Excellency. Admiral Lang, Von Regenrave continued, his voice a blade's edge, repair the ironclad in secrecy, make her a phoenix, armored with stolen Federation steel if need be. Shadow their patrols, learn their ghosts' patterns. Colonel Kraus, pierce the veil wider. Agents into their envoys' midst, seduce, suborn, sabotage. Uncover the leak's ghost, or forge a new one in their ranks. Lang bowed stiffly, pain lancing his leg. For the fallen, we avenge. And Minister Voss, the drums of war beat louder. Proclaim the Valkyrie awakening, our ancient blood stirred against these interlopers. Let every darkson mine, every conscript march, every noble pledge steel and soul. Europa will be ours, Ragnite veins to the last, and these Americans? They will kneel or shatter upon our anvil. The High Command rose as one, salutes cracking like rifle shots, the room's shadows retreating before their renewed zeal. Von Regenrave remained seated, staring into the dying embers of the dispatch spire, the unanswered riddle: how had the void foreseen a thorn in his imperial flesh? But questions were for philosophers, emperors acted. As the doors sealed behind his departing wolves, the war room fell silent once more, save for the distant clamor of forges igniting anew. The Valkyria wars raged on, flames fed by defeat's bitter ash. End of Chapter 11. Chapter 12, Veins of Power and Shadows of Conquest. August 15, 2040, 1934 Europan Calendar. White House Oval Office, Washington, D.C. United States of America. The Oval Office, bathed in the warm glow of afternoon sunlight filtering through bulletproof windows, felt like a sanctuary amid the chaos of a displaced world. President Cordelia Angela Turing-House sat behind the resolute desk, her fingers tracing the edges of a holographic tablet projecting geological survey data in shimmering azure layers. The air hummed faintly with the device's microfusion core, a stark contrast to the antique wood and historical portraits adorning the walls. Flanked by her core advisors, General Russell Ward, Dr. Nagel from the USSA, Director Margaret Hale of the DIA, and Ambassador Renato Wellington, the president absorbed the reports with her father's inherited precision, her mind already weaving strategic threads from raw data. Dr. Nagel, his Pip-Boy synced to the central hologram, gestured expansively, rotating the projection to highlight key findings. Madam President, the orbital surveys, conducted via our reactivated satellites and supplemented by reconnaissance drones, have yielded breakthroughs beyond our initial projections. This planet's mineral wealth is staggering, but the crown jewel is uranium. High-grade deposits, purer than anything we mined on Earth, have been confirmed in 2 primary regions. The hologram zoomed westward, overlaying thermal and spectroscopic scans on the continent of Vinland, a vast, forested landmass teeming with untapped resources, its northern fjords and southern plains pulsing with digital markers. Vinland holds the lion's share, massive veins in the central mountain ranges, estimated reserves exceeding 10 billion tons. Easily extractable with our automated mining tech, enough to fuel our reactors for centuries without straining domestic supplies. General Ward leaned in, his tactical eye appraising the overlays. Strategic gold mine. Vinland's neutral, but their broadcasts hint at economic woes, Ragnite disputes bleeding them dry. A trade deal could secure access, bolstering their defenses against imperial eyes. Nagel nodded, swiping the projection southward to a sprawling landmass below Europa, its jagged coasts and arid interiors labeled in fresh annotations, Igradland, as dubbed by American cartographers from intercepted Europan lore referencing ancient Igrad migrations. Secondary deposits here, in Federation colonies along Igradland's northern rim, scattered outposts like Fort Azura and the mining enclave of Caradun. Smaller yields, perhaps 1 billion tons combined, but proximate to Ragnite fields. The Federation's already tapping surface ores, but our deep scans reveal untapped depths. They lack the tech to reach it, we don't. President House's gaze sharpened, calculating geopolitical ripples. Uranium isn't just fuel, it's leverage. Our fusion tech outpaces their Ragnite dependency, but sharing extraction methods could cement alliances. Director Hale, integrate this with your intel streams. We need eyes on potential Imperial incursions, their defeat at Alaska won't deter them forever. Director Hale, her expression grim, interfaced her Pip-Boy with the hologram, layering encrypted intercepts in red overlays. Speaking of which, Madam President, our DIA assets, embedded in Ramazal markets and Goran ports, have uncovered something dire. Smuggled dispatches from Schwarzgrad, corroborated by satellite eavesdropping on encrypted signals. The Imperial Alliance isn't licking its wounds, they are escalating. The projection shifted to a timeline, crimson arrows arcing across Europa, troop mobilizations along eastern borders, tank factories churning at triple capacity, submarine wolf packs redeploying from northern patrols. Their high command, reeling from Alaska, has pivoted to continental dominance. Plans detail a full-scale invasion of the Atlantic Federation, set for March 1935, Europan calendar. Blitzkrieg tactics, armored spearheads through border provinces, naval blockades on western ports, air raids with their prototype biplanes to soften defenses. Gallia, neutral, but strategically vital in Europa's heart, follows in April. They'll strike from multiple fronts, using Ragnite-enhanced tanks to overrun defenses and seize mineral fields. Emperor von Regenrave's rhetoric frames it as the Valkyrie awakening, total conquest to fuel their war machine. The room tensed, the hologram's arrows pulsing like arterial wounds. Ambassador Wellington, fresh from Rand-Gris negotiations, broke the silence. Gallia's position is key, nestled between Federation territories and Imperial heartlands, controlling vital Ragnite routes. Princess Cordelia's court has been receptive post-exposition, our robots and computers impressed them. But invasion? This tips the scales. We can't stand idle, our isolation in Atlantis won't shield us forever. If the Empire consolidates Europa, they'll turn westward across the ocean. General Ward nodded gravely. Agreed. Our tech gives us the edge, but numbers matter. Alaska proved we dominate seas and skies, but a drawn-out war drains resources. Ally with the Federation and Gallia now, joint ops, tech sharing. Bolster their lines with our drones and lasers, in return, access to Ragnite for hybrid research. Uranium from Vinland and Igradland secures our endgame. President House rose, pacing to the window overlooking the manicured lawns, her mind a whirlwind of probabilities. The weight of a nation, displaced, resilient, pressed upon her, but so did the spark of opportunity. We've been observers long enough. This world isn't Earth, but its people face the same shadows, tyranny, resource wars. We intervene not as conquerors, but guardians. Stephen, prep a secure hololink to Prime Minister Duval and Princess Cordelia. Ambassador Wellington, you'll lead the delegation. Offer full alliance, military aid, uranium tech for their colonies, fusion insights to augment Ragnite. In exchange, unified front against the Empire. We'll deploy advisors to Gallia immediately, strategic choke points fortified with our protectorants and air cover. As the team dispersed to execute, the president lingered, the hologram fading to a soft glow. Uranium veins pulsed like lifelines across the map, a promise of power amid encroaching darkness. Across the Atlantis, alliances forged in fire, the Valkyria Wars, once a distant echo, now thundered toward America's shores. End of Chapter 12. Chapter 13, Forged in Accord. July 25, 2040. Ramassel, administrative capital of the Atlantic Federation. Europa continent. The grand halls of the Federation Assembly in Ramassel echoed with the measured footsteps of history in the making. Towering marble columns, etched with motifs of crushing waves and clasped hands symbolizing unity, framed a vast chamber where crystal chandeliers, powered by refined Ragnite, cast a warm, azure glow over the polished oak table. Maps of Europa dominated one wall, red pins marking imperial advances now frozen by the shadow of Alaskan annihilation. Outside, the bustling streets of Ramassel hummed with wartime fervor, factories churning dreadnought plating, recruits drilling under banners proclaiming, Federation Eternal. Prime Minister Leonard Duval presided at the head of the table, his silver hair impeccable, flanked by Admiral Etienne Moreau, still haunted by the Nimitz Bridge, his notebook filled with frantic sketches of F-44 contrails, and Ms. Elizabeth Laurent, the attaché whose sharp mind had devoured every exposition detail. Opposite them sat the American delegation, Ambassador Renato Wellington, exuding seasoned calm, Major Elias Grant, intelligence liaison with a Pip-Boy synced to orbital feeds, Lieutenant Commander Aria Chen, communications expert, and General Marcus Hale, representing the Department of Defense's strategic arm, his uniform adorned with subtle American insignias. Duval steepled his fingers, his voice resonant with gravitas. Ambassador Wellington, esteemed colleagues, the Battle of Alaska has rewritten the tides of Europa. Your 20th Fleet, it was no mere clash, it was the death knell of imperial hubris. 19 dreadnoughts to the abyss, without a scar on your hulls. The ironclad flees like a wounded beast. Yet victory demands more than spectacle. The Empire licks its wounds in Schwarzgrad, but their legions mass on our borders. We seek not charity, but partnership, a true alliance to shatter their throne. Renato nodded, his gaze steady. Prime Minister, the United States stands ready. We've intercepted their frantic signals, forges ablaze, conscripts flooding the marches. But numbers alone won't suffice against precision. We've come face to forge ironclad terms. Admiral Moreau leaned forward, his eyes alight. Your sky demons, your ghost submarines, witness them we did. But the ground war grinds on, Imperial tanks roll over our lines, Ragnite shells pulverizing trenches. Share your fire, rifles that pierce armor at a kilometer, anti-tank lances without recoil. Arm the Federation, and we'll bleed the Empire dry. General Hale activated his Pip-Boy, a holographic projector springing to life above the table. Shimmering blueprints materialized, Air 9 lays rifle schematics, compact fusion cells glowing in simulation, man-portable Javelin missile systems with laser guidance, even prototype sentry turret drones, spider-like automatons deploying razor wire and plasma bursts. Limited transfer, Hale stated firmly. Laser rifles for your elite divisions, 5,000 units, with training cadres from our Marines. Javelins for tank killers, lock on, fire and forget. No full schematics, black box tech to prevent reverse engineering mishaps. In return, basing rights for our carriers in your ports, shared Ragnite intel, and joint ops against Imperial supply lines. Ms. Lauron traced a holographic missile arc, her breath catching. This Javelin, it hunts like a falcon, unerring through smoke. Our boys in the mud could hold entire fronts. Duval's eyes hardened with resolve. Accepted. But bind it in treaty, the Atlantic Federation and United States of America, allied against the Imperial scourge. Mutual defense, your fleets shield our coasts, our armies anchor your flanks. Vinland wavers, we'll court them next. Hands clasped across the table, Duval's firm grip sealing the Ramassel Accord. Cheers erupted from aides, Moreau saluted Hale with newfound respect. Europa arms itself anew, Duval proclaimed. To Schwarzgrad's pyre. July 28, 2040. Randgriz Castle, capital of Gallia. Europa continent. The throne room of Randgriz Castle evoked timeless neutrality, vaulted ceilings adorned with frescoes of ancient Valkyrian guardians, stained glass windows filtering sunlight into kaleidoscopes of blue and gold across flagstone floors. Banners of Gallia's stag emblem hung motionless, a testament to the principality's precarious balance amid superpower tempests. Yet whispers of change stirred, Imperial scouts probing borders, Federation envoys lingering too long. Princess Cordelia Gi Randgriz occupied the ornate throne with poised grace, her silver headdress framing porcelain features and eyes sharp with quiet determination. At her right stood Marquis Moritz von Borg, Prime Minister and Regent, his extravagant curls a cascade of calculated grandeur, exuding narcissistic confidence as he surveyed the room like a hawk his aviary. Flanking them, Royal Guard Captain Ellis, stoic sentinel, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, a bespectacled diplomat clutching Ragnite-fueled ledgers. The Americans entered with deference, Renato Wellington at the fore, accompanied by Aria Chen and a subdued military attaché, Ensign Lila Torres, her youth belying expertise in cultural linguistics. Gallia's sanctity demanded subtlety. Your Highness, Marquis von Borg, Renato began with a deep bow, we come not as conquerors, but guardians. Alaska's thunder echoes across Atlantis, the Empire reels, their fleets grave a warning to tyrants. Cordelia's voice, soft yet unyielding, cut the air. Ambassador, Gallia cherishes neutrality, a beacon amid the storms. Yet the Empire's shadow lengthens, their agents whisper in our halls. Your exposition in Randgriz opened eyes to wonders, televisions bridging divides, robots tending hearths. The Battle of Alaska, tales from Federation observers chill the blood. Dreadnoughts as driftwood? We seek not entanglement, but survival. Von Borg interjected, his tone oily with ambition masked as patriotism. Precisely, Your Highness. Gallia's forges hum, but Ragnite veins dwindle under Imperial covetousness. Your artifacts intrigue. Televisions for our assemblies, computers for logistics, small booms for our defenses, preserving the balance. Aria Chen stepped forward, her Pip-Boy discreetly projecting a subdued holomap of Europa, Imperial red creeping toward Gallian green. Marquis, Princess, the Ramassel Accord arms the Federation. Extend it here, modest aid to fortify neutrality. 500 laser rifles for your Royal Guard, sentry drones for border watchtowers. Training from our advisors, no bases, no obligations beyond intel sharing. In return, overflight rights for patrols, early warning on Imperial probes. Cordelia leaned forward, her fingers tracing the map's edge. Laser rifles, light as feathers, fire that melts steel. Our militias suffer outdated bolt actions against Panzer GS drones, tireless sentinels, as your Mr. Handy charmed our crowds. Von Borg's eyes gleamed, visions of leveraged power dancing. A trial, then. Equip our vanguard, should the bear awaken, Gallia stands fortified. The accord binds us loosely, trade flourishes, empire checked. After hushed counsel with her advisors, Cordelia rose, extending her hand to Renato. Gallia joins the accord. Arms for defense, alliance for peace. Let no invader cross our thresholds. The chamber resounded with Gallian anthems as documents signed, quills scratching beside digital seals. Von Borg's smile widened, plotting unseen threads. Cordelia's gaze held quiet resolve. Renato clasped her hand firmly. Europa arms as one. The Empire's anvil cracks. As the Americans departed Randgriz under stag banners, freighters laden with crates steamed from U.S. ports, laser rifles, javelins, sentry bots destined for Ramasol and Randgriz. The Valkyria wars tilted, old world met new fire. End of Chapter 13. Chapter 14, Shadows of a Parallel Tyranny. September 5, 2040, 1934 Europan calendar. Randgriz, capital of Gallia. Europa continent. The cobblestone streets of Randgriz bustled under the crisp autumn sun, merchants hawking ragnite-laced trinkets and fresh-baked loaves amid the shadow of Randgriz Castle's stag banners. Neutrality cloaked the city in deceptive calm, but beneath the surface, shadows stirred, imperial agents weaving through crowds like wolves among sheep. In the heart of the Gallian quarter, the American Cultural Exchange Pavilion stood as a sleek anomaly, a prefabricated structure of polished alloy and glowing holoscreens, left behind after the World Technology Exposition to foster diplomatic goodwill. Televisions flickered with Earth documentaries in the open lobby, computers hummed for public use, and shelves brimmed with donated texts, histories, sciences, novels from a lost world. Colonel Victor Krause's protégé, Lieutenant Otto Reinhard, moved with the practiced nonchalance of a seasoned infiltrator. Disguised as a Gallian bookseller in threadbare wool and a false mustache, he had posed as a curious local for weeks, charming the pavilion's lone attendant, a young ensign Lila Torres, with feigned interest in foreign tales. Today, the exchange was empty. Torres was offered a Royal Guard briefing, courtesy of a forged plumbing emergency diverted by Krause's network. Reinhard's gloved hands darted to a lower shelf, labeled 20th Century Histories. His target, a thick, leather-bound volume emblazoned with a stark red cover, The Defeat of the Third Reich, How the Allies Triumphed Over the Axis Powers. Intercepted chatter from American envoys had flagged it as declassified public domain, left for cultural exchange. Perfect bait for imperial curiosity, promises of enemy strategies, glimpsed during the exposition's aftermath. He slipped the book into his satchel, heart pounding beneath his calm facade. No alarms, no witnesses. A quick scan to the pages confirmed no trackers. By dusk, the tome would traverse Gallian backroads via smuggler caravan, then submarine to imperial waters, destined for Schwarzgrad's war room. For the Empire, Reinhard whispered, melting into the throng. The Valkyrie's shadows lengthened. September 12, 2040, 1934 Europan calendar. Imperial Palace, Schwarzgrad. Capital of the East Europan Imperial Alliance. Europa continent. The war room's obsidian expanse gleamed under ragnite chandeliers, their azure flames casting elongated specters across maps pinned with crimson arrows, Europa's borders aflame with mobilization. Forges across the east roared at capacity, tank treads churning mud into legions poised for the Valkyrie awakening. At the head of the table sat Emperor Adolfo Gaius von Regenrave, his dark hair slicked severely, a neatly trimmed mustache framing lips curled in perpetual disdain, a visage etched by divine right and unyielding ambition. Flanking him, General Heinrich Stahl, his massive frame coiled like a spring, Admiral Erich Lang, crutch discarded, scars from Alaska a badge of survival, Minister Ilara Voss, her silken poise weaving propaganda webs, Colonel Victor Krauss, spectacles polished, fresh from field reports, and, for the first time in these shadowed councils, Crown Prince Maximilian Gaius von Regenrave. The prince stood tall at 180 centimeters, a vision of regal beauty, flowing blonde locks framing piercing blue eyes that gleamed with aloof calculation, his uniform adorned with the Dresden insignia. Unlike his father's stern severity, Maximilian exuded natural charisma, aloof, merciless in duty, yet principled to a fault. Born legitimate heir to the emperor's favored consort, he had risen through iron discipline, his hatred for weakness forged in childhood trials. Today, he observed silently, summoned to weigh in on the Gallian front. Krauss placed the satchel on the table with a reverent thud. Your Excellency, Prince Maximilian, procured from the American pavilion in Randgries by Lieutenant Reinhard. A history from their world, the fall of their Third Reich and triumph of Allies over Axis. Brims with tactics, weapons, their own defeats turned to lessons. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, gesturing sharply. Open it. If it reveals their sorcery's cracks, we wield it as a blade. Voss flipped the cover, her voice silky as she read aloud select passages, translating the dense English via a captured American phrasebook. Here, Blitzkrieg faltered against Soviet winter and Allied air supremacy. Superior numbers overwhelmed at Stalingrad. Propaganda, claiming their aerial armadas shattered panzer divisions from afar. Stahl snorted, pounding a fist. Wind and lies. Our Panzer GS would grind their tanks to scrap. They boast of radar and jets, toys we've glimpsed, but numbers prevail. Lang nodded grimly. Naval chapters, carrier strikes eviscerated battleship fleets. Echoes Alaska, but they admit fuel woes, convoy losses. Bleed their seas, and their flat decks drift lifeless. Maximilian leaned forward, blue eyes dissecting the text with scalpel precision. Intriguing, yet hollow. They glorify guerrillas and logistics, darksome rabble tactics. Dismissible. Their atomic bombs, cities vaporized in fire from the heavens. Exaggerated fable, like Valkyrian myths. No Ragnite trace, pure fantasy to cow foes. The Emperor waved dismissal, but Voss turned a page, halting mid-breath. Nestled amid grainy photographs, a formal portrait spanning 2 pages, Adolf Hitler, Führer of the Third Reich, staring out with unblinking intensity. Dark hair parted severely, mustache a thin black line beneath the nose, eyes burning with messianic fervor. The room froze. Gasps rippled, Stahl's jaw slackened, Lang paled, Krauss's spectacles slipped. Voss's hand trembled, the book nearly slipping. Maximilian's blue eyes widened fractionally, the aloof mask cracking. Emperor von Regenrave surged forward, seizing the volume. His face, mirror to the image, same angular jaw, piercing gaze, imperious tilt of chin. Only subtleties diverged, the Führer's hair a shade blacker, his mustache squared where the Emperor's tapered elegantly to points. Identical, as if Valkyrie prophecy reborn. By the ancients. The Emperor whispered, voice hoarse. He traced the face, repulsion and fascination warring. This, apparition. This a Hitler, tyrant of a fallen Reich, echo of my own visage. Destiny mocks us? Or warns? Voss recovered first, voice quavering. Your Excellency, the parallels chill. A 1,000-year empire crumbled by coalitions, internal rot. Propaganda to demoralize, yet, the likeness. Valkyrie bloodline manifest across voids. Stahl growled, shaking his head. Illusion. Doctored image to unnerve. Their allies won through treachery, much like Federation plots. We ignore the drivel, crush as foretold. Maximilian's voice cut clean, principled resolve stealing his tone. Father, the book reeks of exaggeration, atomic delusions, invasion of blunders excused as genius. Yet this Hitler demands reflection. A parallel sovereign, undone by overreach. We learn, no mercy to neutrals, no hesitation on Gallia. Seize their Ragnite, their crossroads, before American skies intervene. The emperor straightened, reclaiming composure, the portrait fueling imperial fire. Indeed, my son. This shadow affirms our path. The Valkyrie chose us, not phantoms. Dismiss their fables, their bombs and myths, their minds unknown chimeras. Prince Maximilian, you command the Gallian front. Dresden leads, overrun Randgriz, claim the heart. No quarter, no pause. Prove this a Hitler, a lesser echo. Maximilian saluted crisply, blonde locks catching the light, blue eyes ablaze. As duty demands, Father. Gallia falls, Europa kneels. The council erupted in fervor, maps redrawn, orders dispatched. The book lay open, Hitler's gaze staring eternally, a harbinger ignored amid rising drums. Shadows deepened, invasion dawned. End of Chapter 14. Chapter 15, Fractures in the Stern. September 20, 2040, 1934 Europan calendar. Imperial Palace, Schwarzgrad, capital of the East Europan Imperial Alliance. Europa continent. The war room of the Imperial Palace in Schwarzgrad pulsed with the restrained fury of delayed conquest, its obsidian table bathed in the cold azure glow of ragnite chandeliers that flickered like captive stars. Tapestries along the walls depicted Valkyrie legions crushing ancient adversaries, their threads infused with refined ragnite to evoke an eternal, ethereal flame, a reminder of the bloodline's divine mandate. Beyond the chamber's heavy doors, the capital spires loomed under a slate-grey sky, while in the shadowed courtyards below, Darkson laborious, branded as inferior and chained like beasts, hammered away at Panzer G armor plates. Whips cracked relentlessly, driving them to collapse under the weight of imperial ambition, their sweat and blood fueling the Valkyrie awakening. The air carried the distant clamor of forges and the acrid bite of overtaxed ragnite, underscoring the Empire's merciless engine. Crown Prince Maximilian Gaius von Regenrave entered with the commanding poise of his exalted lineage, his blonde locks catching the lantern light like a halo of inevitable triumph, framing piercing blue eyes that swept the room with calculated intensity. Standing, he embodied aristocratic lethality in his impeccably tailored uniform, the Dresden insignia, a stylized three-point star, gleaming on his collar like a symbol of unbreakable dominion. The invasion of Gallia hung in the balance, stalled by elusive Federation scouts and rumors of American shadows skirting the borders, transforming the war room into a cauldron of simmering impatience. Awaiting him were the stern's indomitable pillars, seated around the obsidian expanse. To his right sat Selvaria Bulls, the Valkyrie's living incarnation, her posture a serene sentinel amid the room's oppressive grandeur. Her long silver hair flowed like a shimmering cascade down to her waist, framing porcelain features, pale skin, and dark red eyes that concealed depths of ancient sorrow, eyes that could unleash torrents of ragnite fury or hide the turmoil brewing within. Tall and elegantly curvaceous, her officer's greatcoat draped her well-endowed form like a shroud, her ancestral Valkyria lance and shield, rare artifacts unearthed from forgotten ruins, forged from refined ragnite and irreplaceable by any imperial forge, propped nearby like relics of a bygone godhood. Such weapons were finite and scarce, scattered remnants of the Valkyrie legacy. Selvaria wielded one of the few discovered, her bond with it a double-edged curse of power and isolation. Her loyalty to Maximilian was the core of her existence, forged in shared exile and prophetic destiny, yet it now concealed growing fractures, the burden of her bloodline's demands, and a nascent revulsion at the prince's escalating cruelty. Beside her sat Bertold Gregor, the stern's unyielding strategist, his tall frame imposing in its stern rigidity, eclipsing his seat with an aura of calculated authority rather than bulk. His face, weathered by age and scars from a long-healed leg wound, wore a perpetual expression of disdain beneath neatly combed hair, his sharp features betraying no warmth. Gregor's voice rumbled a salute as Maximilian approached, gravelly and laced with radical fervor. "Prince. The maps are primed, Gallia's ragnite veins begging to be bled dry. When do we unleash the storm?" To Gregor's left sat Rady Jaeger, the stern's chivalrous tactician, a lean and composed figure with sharp features and a manet of dark hair tied back in disciplined restraint. His uniform bore the marks of border skirmishes, his calm demeanor belying a mind honed for strategy and honor. Originally from the fallen kingdom of Firald, Jaeger served not out of blind loyalty but a pact for his homeland's restoration, his steady gaze fixed on the charts. Your Highness, Jaeger intoned evenly, the delays chafe, but they sharpen our edge. Gallia's neutrality masks vulnerabilities, let's exploit them wisely. Maximilian claimed the head of the table with effortless authority, his blue eyes igniting with predatory resolve as he spread gloved hands over the detailed maps, Gallia's lush plains, winding rivers, and ragnite-rich zones like Fuzen etched with converging red arrows. Gregor, your resolve is the Empire's anvil, Jaeger, your honor its edge. Selvaria, your insight. He traced a bold line toward Rangriz, the Principality's core, his voice smooth yet laced with unyielding impatience. The Emperor's mandate is unequivocal, Gallia falls before the frost sets in. Their neutrality is a coward's veil, we strike as Dree stern, launching our combined forces from the north to seize Gerlandio citadel first, then pushing onward to conquer the Ragnite mines at Fuzen. From there, the advance sweeps southward in a relentless ground blitz, our version of the Lightning War, Panzer G columns thundering ahead to shatter their lines before they can rally. We four lead together in this opening phase, smash through the northern border with armored divisions, raise any resistance, and secure thousands' mines. Expect heavy losses, deploy Calamity Raven to the vanguard, that expendable Darkson unit will soak the Gauli in fire. Gregor nodded sharply, his stern features twisting into a grimace of approval. As it should be, Prince. Those vermin in Calamity Raven pave the roads with their corpses. No mercy, crush the villages if they harbor resistors. Jaeger, Maximilian continued, his tone sharpening, you coordinate the flanking maneuvers in the north, consolidate the captured Gerlandio, then pivot to support the drive on Fuzen. Use ground assaults to overwhelm, flood the plains with infantry if needed. Casualties will mount if the Gallians rally American aid, expend whatever troops necessary to press the advance. The strong claim victory through blood. Jaeger nodded thoughtfully, his composure unbroken. Understood, Your Highness. Efficiency in sacrifice, I'll minimize waste where possible, but the objective prevails. Finally, Maximilian's gaze settled on Selvaria, his blue eyes locking with her dark red ones in a moment of expectant command. Selvaria, you command the vanguard spearhead alongside us, breach the northern defenses at Gerlandio, unleashing your Valkyrie fury to shatter their fortifications, then drive on to Fuzen. The costs will be steep, American sky demons may intervene, turning fields to graveyards. But we pay in lives for glory, drive your forces without relent. Selvaria's dark red eyes held his gaze, her porcelain mask holding firm, but inside, a sickening churn roiled like poison in her veins. The orders echoed the recent horrors, not the glorious clashes against the Empire's true foes, like the righteous invasion of Bergwistau where Valar met Valar, but the hidden massacres of Darkson villages scattered within imperial borders, entire settlements razed under Maximilian's cold decrees, their inhabitants branded traitors and slaughtered to purify the ranks. Whips on Laboris, families torn asunder, bodies left to rot as examples. She felt revolted, a deep-seated nausea twisting her core, the Valkyrie blood itself rebelling against the inhumanity. This was no path of destiny, it was descent into barbarity, and Maximilian's disdainful commands only deepened the fissure, a crack in her unyielding loyalty, born of disillusionment at his growing callousness. Yet she composed herself, her voice steady as she ventured a counterpoint, laced with the weight of her visions. As you command, my prince. The phases align with the Valkyrie's whisper. Yet, Gallia's Ragnite is the prize, perhaps intimidation and persuasion could yield it with fewer graves. Their princess values neutrality, offer terms under threat, bend them without full conquest. American shadows loom, direct assault invites their thunder, costing us dearly in troops. Maximilian's lips curled in scorn, his blue eyes flashing with contempt as he waved a hand dismissively. Bah! Weakness, Selvaria, only the frail negotiate, the strong seize what they desire. Gallia cowers, we crush them under heel. Your Valkyrie power exists to enforce that truth, not barter like merchants. Continue, the phases proceed as ordered. The dismissal struck like a lance to her spirit, amplifying the inner sickness, a revolt against the cruelty that now defined their path. Selvaria's hands clenched subtly beneath the table, her dark red eyes dimming with unspoken turmoil. Loyalty bound her still, an iron vow, but the fissure widened, a harbinger that could redefine her fate in this unfolding saga. Gregor grunted in agreement, while Jaeger arched a brow in silent consideration. The council delved deeper into tactics, arrows redrawn across Gaulian wilds, supply lines etched in crimson, feints calibrated for maximum deception. Maximilian orchestrated with charismatic precision, his blonde mane aglow as he refined the stalled blitz, thousands captured deferred but inexorable. Selvaria contributed flawlessly, her Ragnite projections illuminating the maps in azure simulations, but her gaze strayed to the shadows, dark red eyes narrowing at visions of hubris's toll. The crack deepened, loyalty's flame flickered, fed by revulsion at the massacres and cold decrees. As the room emptied into the palace halls, Gregor issuing directives to the forge overseers, Jaeger reviewing scout reports, and Maximilian sealing missives with the imperial crest, Selvaria lingered at the threshold, her ancestral lance a heavy anchor in her grip. The tapestry's Valkyrie figures gazed down in silent judgment, Gallia's invasion simmered on the horizon, but within her, the sickness brewed, a seed of change that promised to reshape her destiny. End of Chapter 15. Chapter 16, Arsenal of the Void. September 22, 2040, 1934 Europan calendar. Randgriz Proving Grounds, outskirts of Randgriz. Gallia, Europa continent. The crisp autumn wind whipped across the expansive Randgriz Proving Grounds, a vast expanse of scarred earth ringed by Gaulian watchtowers and forested hills, transformed for the day into a theater of technological revelation. Banners of Gallia's stag fluttered alongside the Atlantic Federation's azure waves and the bold stars and stripes of the United States, a fragile triad forged in the Ramazal Accord. Neutral Gallia hosted the demonstration at Princess Cordelia Gi Randgriz's invitation, her court seeking assurances amid rising imperial shadows. Rows of wooden bleachers brimmed with dignitaries, Prime Minister Leonard Duval and Admiral Etienne Moreau from the Federation, their wool greatcoats crisp, Marquis Moritz von Borg preening beside Princess Cordelia, her silver headdress gleaming, and a cadre of wide-eyed officers from both nations. Ambassador Renato Wellington stood at the forefront, flanked by Major Elias Grant and Lieutenant Commander Arya Chen, their crisp uniforms a stark contrast to the Europan's riveted finery. Esteemed allies, Renato announced over the public address system, his voice amplified by Robco speakers, the Battle of Alaska unveiled our naval supremacy. Today, witness the ground might of the United States, the arsenal that secured our homeworld's peace. Robots, rifles, armor, tireless guardians against any foe. The first wave rolled forth, for robotic behemoths, humming with fusion cores, deployed from concealed transports. Leading was the Assault Ron, a sleek bipedal killer painted olive drab, its optic visor glowing crimson. It blurred into motion, cloaking briefly in a shimmer of stealth before slashing a row of scrap metal targets with razor claws, then unleashing a charged head laser that vaporized a reinforced bunker in a brilliant azure flash. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Admiral Moreau leaned forward, murmuring, "A ghost with fangs, no pilot, yet deadlier than 10 men." Next lumbered the sentry bot, a hulking tri-wheeled monstrosity over 2 meters tall, its armored shell venting steam from massive fans. Tri-barrel Gatling lasers whirred to life on its arms, shredding a line of mock Panzer G hulks into molten slag, while shoulder missile pods loosed cluster grenades that erupted in fireballs, simulating anti-tank barrages. Overwhelming fire, Princess Cordelia whispered, her eyes wide, as if the Valkyrie forged steel. Mr. Gutsy zipped overhead, a militarized Mr. Handy variant with screaming propellers, its spherical body bristling with dual flamethrowers and circular saw blades. It strafed a cluster of simulated infantry dummies, hosing them in plasma jets before carving through armor plating with whirring blades. Laughter mingled with awe. Von Borg chuckled nervously, a butler turned reaper. The Securitron capped the robotic display, a towering monowheel sentinel with a flickering CRT face displaying a stern police visage. Upgraded Mark II OS active, it unleashed a symphony, right arm 9mm submachine gun chattering suppression fire, Glastinghouse X-25 Gatling laser melting distant targets, shoulder M-235 missiles arcing to pulverize bunkers, and G-28 grenade launchers blanketing the field in explosions. Versatile as a legion, Duval breathed, scribbling furiously. Renato gestured onward. Infantry arms, the R91 assault rifle, 5.56 mm full auto precision for the line soldier. Marines demonstrated, stitching accurate bursts through moving silhouettes at 300 meters. Then came the exotics, laser weapons barking crimson bolts that punched through steel plates, plasma rifles spewing globs of superheated goo that corroded mock tanks from within. Portable power, Major Grant explained, no Ragnite dependency, fast magazines via microfusion cells. The crown jewel emerged, a gleaming T-51B power armor suit, the pinnacle of American engineering, silver and green plating over a fusion-powered exoskeleton, helmeted visor glowing with targeting HUDs. A Marine pilot strode it forth, hydraulic servos hissing, effortlessly hefting a minigun as if a toy. Invulnerable Bastion, Renato declared. The finale, a U.S. main battle tank rumbled into position, its nuclear-powered bulk, modeled on the venerable M17 Lincoln, squatting low with twin 140mm cannons yawning like abyssal maws. At 60 tons of steel, it dwarfed Europan dreadnought turrets. Test its might, Renato commanded. The tank's cannons boomed, hurling sabot rounds at the distant T-51B. Shells screamed skyward, impacting with earth-shaking fury, yet the power armor stood unmoved, plating unscratched, pilot signaling thumbs up amid dissipating smoke. Silence blanketed the grounds, then erupted in uproar. Moreau staggered to his feet, face ashen. By the ancients, it endures a battleship's wrath. Duval gripped his chair, whispering, tanks obsolete, our lines invincible. Von Borge paled, muttering, Gallia's borders eternal. Princess Cordelia rose gracefully, applause thundering, but her eyes held steely resolve, America's void brings salvation, and terror. As the delegation swarmed for inspections, Federation engineers probing fusion cores, galleons tracing armor seams, Renato exchanged nods with Grant. The Imperial's northern probes loomed, this display ensured the Accord's steel spine. Across the Atlantis, word spread, the Void's warriors had arrived, unyielding as the stars. End of Chapter 16. Chapter 17, Echoes of Legacy. September 25, 2040. White House Oval Office, Washington, D.C. United States of America. The Oval Office retained its timeless aura of authority, the resolute desk a steadfast anchor amid the holographic projections flickering across its surface, orbital scans of Europa's borders, red arrows tracing imperial troop movements like veins pulsing with imminent conflict. President Cordelia Angela Turing-House leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples as she reviewed the latest DIA intercepts, whispers of Dre Stern's northern probes into Gallia, Maximilian's name surfacing like a specter from intercepted radio signals. The Ramasul Accord held firm, with Federation and Gallian forces bolstered by American arms, but the weight of escalation pressed upon her. A displaced nation, now guardian of a fractured world, her decisions echoed her father's analytical rigor, yet carried the burden of her mother's innovative spirit. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts, Stephen, her assistant, via intercom. Madam President, you have an unscheduled visitor. He insists it's urgent, personal and strategic. It's your father. Cordelia's eyes lit up with a warm smile, a genuine spark of joy breaking through her presidential composure. Robert Edwin House, CEO of Robco Industries, her ever-supportive father, had always been a constant in her life, their bond strong despite the demands of their respective worlds. Send him in right away, she replied, standing with anticipation as the door swung open. Robert House entered with a broad, affectionate grin, his tailored suit impeccable, silver hair neatly combed, and a Pip-Boy humming softly on his wrist. At 50, he appeared a decade younger, skin smooth, posture vital, eyes sharp with the vitality granted by Big MT's experimental genetic therapies, treatments that had extended his vigor without a hint of frailty. His health was impeccable, a testament to the cutting-edge interventions that blurred the line between human and enhanced. No cane, no hesitation, he moved with the easy confidence of a man who commanded empires but cherished family above all. He crossed the room in quick strides, pulling her into a heartfelt embrace that lingered a moment longer than protocol might allow. Cordelia, my brilliant girl, House said warmly, his voice rich with paternal pride as he held her at arm's length, studying her with twinkling eyes. You've been carrying the weight of two worlds on those shoulders. I couldn't stay away any longer, had to come see how my daughter's holding up and lend a hand. Father, it's so good to see you, Cordelia replied, her tone light and affectionate, the stress of the day easing in his presence. Their relationship had always been close, built on mutual respect, shared intellect, and unwavering support, no reservations, just open collaboration and shared loss. The storm's aftermath has kept us all occupied, but your timing is perfect. What brings you here with that mischievous look? House chuckled, a genuine laugh that filled the room, as he set a sleek briefcase on the desk, etched with Robco's robotic arm logo. Always straight to business, just like your mother. But first, how are you, really? These reports from Europa, they're keeping you up at night, aren't they? She nodded, gesturing for him to sit as they both settled into chairs. They are. Imperial dreadnoughts sunk, alliances forged, but the ground war looms. Europa's Ragnite-fueled hordes outnumber us, their emperor's fanaticism knows no bounds. We need a decisive edge, not incremental arms, but a symbol of unassailable might. House's expression turned enthusiastic, his eyes lighting up as he flipped open the briefcase with a click, revealing a compact holographic projector. With a tap on his Pip-Boy, it hummed to life, casting a three-dimensional blueprint into the air, a colossal bipedal robot, towering at over 140 feet, armored in gleaming alloy plates, with glowing optic sensors and massive limbs equipped for devastation. Schematics detailed integrated laser emitters in the eyes, backpack-mounted nuclear strike capabilities, and fusion-powered propulsion for relentless advance. Project code name, God of Liberty. A walking fortress, designed to shatter enemy lines with overwhelming force. Voice-modulated propaganda broadcasts to demoralize foes, energy weapons to vaporize tanks, and a self-sustaining core that could march across continents without resupply. Cordelia studied the projection, her analytical mind racing through implications, tactical, logistical, ethical. Liberty Prime, from the old conceptual archives? But it was never built, shelved due to energy constraints and politic reasons. You're proposing we revive it now? House nodded eagerly, leaning forward with the animated energy of a collaborator rather than a recluse. Exactly. The design originated from collaborative sketches years ago, but the displacement provides the impetus and the resources. This isn't a relic, it's evolution. A partnership, Robco for the chassis and AI integration, Big MT for experimental power systems and cybernetic oversight on the control interfaces, General Atomics International for the fusion core and propulsion mechanics. And Turing Computers Limited for the neural processing and holographic command overlays. He paused, his tone warm and nostalgic. Your mother's company, Cordelia. Alana's legacy, her algorithms for adaptive learning could make this machine not just a weapon, but a thinking guardian. Turing Computers was her vision, integrating it honors her, and ensures the project's computational backbone is unbreakable. Cordelia's expression softened with fond remembrance. Her mother, Alana, gone too soon, had founded Turing Computers as a beacon of innovation, blending AI with human intuition. A fitting tribute, indeed. The timelines? Resources? We're stretched thin with aid shipments to Gallia and the Federation. House waved a hand dismissively, his enthusiasm infectious. The framework exists in prototypes scattered across our facilities, pre-displacement stockpiles intact. With priority allocation, assembly at Big MT's secure labs. Ready for deployment by December 1935 on the Europan calendar, mere months. Imagine it, striding into Imperial territory, lasers carving through their panzers, declaring freedom is non-negotiable as it crushes their resolve. Not just victory, dominance. A god of liberty to end the war decisively. Cordelia paced thoughtfully, then turned with a spark of inspiration in her eyes. It's brilliant, father, but let's refine it. The nuclear strikes, they're too escalatory, too reminiscent of doomsday weapons. What if we modify the backpack arsenal? Swap the atomic bombs for MOABs, mother of all bombs. Conventional explosives with massive yield, enough to level fortifications without the fallout or ethical nightmare of radiation. It keeps the shock and awe but aligns better with our principles, precision devastation, not apocalyptic threat. House's eyes widened in admiration, a proud grin spreading across his face. "That's my girl, always one step ahead. MOABs it is, we'll integrate the delivery system seamlessly. Less risk, same impact." Alana would have loved that touch, practical genius. They shared a laugh, the bond between them evident in the easy exchange of ideas. "Approved," Cordelia said firmly. "Coordinate with General Ward for integration. But ensure safeguards. This machine fights for liberty, not conquest." House rose, clasping her shoulder warmly. "As you command, Madam President." Robco and family delivers. "Let's grab dinner soon, talk about something other than wars for once." As he departed, the hologram lingered faintly, Liberty Prime's silhouette a promise of thunder. The displacement had brought threats, but also forged new legends. Europa's tyrants would soon face the Void's ultimate arbiter. End of Chapter 17. Chapter 18, Bulwarks of the West. October 5, 2040, 1934 Europan calendar. Fort Bellegarde Command Center, eastern border of the Atlantic Federation. Europa continent. The Fort Bellegarde Command Center perched like a steel eagle on the rugged cliffs overlooking the Erinden Plains, a vast frontier expanse where the Atlantic Federation's territories met the Imperial Alliance's encroaching shadow. Reinforced concrete bunkers hummed with the fusion of old and new, Ragnite-fueled generators chugging alongside American microfusion cells, holographic tactical maps overlaying hand-drawn parchment charts. Outside, trenches snaked across the landscape, bolstered by fresh American sentry turrets, autonomous guardians scanning the horizon with unblinking optics, while Federation artillery batteries, upgraded with laser-guided munitions, stood sentinel against the eastern haze. The air carried the metallic tang of impending rain and the faint ozone whiff of charged plasma rifles, a testament to the Ramazzotti Accord's rapid implementation. Inside the dimly lit war room, a massive oak table groaned under the weight of strategy, pins marking Imperial scout incursions, red arrows hypothesizing armored thrusts through the plane's choke points. Prime Minister Leonard Duval had dispatched his finest to hold the line, General Armand Leclerc, a grizzled veteran with a scarred face and a penchant for tank tactics, and General Sophia Moreau, a sharp-minded tactician whose family ties to Admiral Etienne Moreau lent her insights into naval integrated operations. They stood poring over the maps, their war uniforms crisp, debating flanking maneuvers in hushed Europan accents. The door swung open with purposeful authority, admitting Lieutenant General Douglas MacArthur II, a three-star powerhouse of the United States Army. At 55, he cut an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered at 6 feet 2 inches, with a chiseled jaw framed by salt and pepper hair-cropped military short, and piercing hazel eyes that echoed the unyielding resolve of his legendary great-grandfather, General Douglas MacArthur of World War II fame. Born in 1985 to a lineage steeped in valor, his grandfather Arthur MacArthur IV having carried the torch through the Cold War era, Douglas too had risen through the ranks on merit, commanding armored divisions in pre-displacement exercises with a blend of strategic brilliance and inspirational leadership. His uniform bore the stars of command, Pip-Boy on his wrist syncing seamlessly with the room's holograms, and a subtle medal rack honoring campaigns that now felt like echoes from a vanished Earth. Generals Leclerc, Moreau, MacArthur greeted with a firm nod, his voice a resonant baritone carrying the weight of history. Ambassador Wellington sends his regards from Randgriz. I've been tasked with coordinating our joint defenses here on the federal front, integrating American assets to turn this border into an unbreakable wall. The Imperials probe daily, their standard legions mass beyond those hills, tanks rumbling like thunder. We hold them here, or Europa fractures. General Leclerc extended a gloved hand, his scarred features cracking into a respectful grin. General MacArthur, your name precedes you. Tales of your ancestors' island-hopping campaigns reached our academies. We've fortified the plains with our heavy guns, but your innovations? They could turn the tide. MacArthur clasped the hand firmly, then unrolled a holographic overlay from his Pip-Boy, projecting American reinforcements onto the map, clusters of T-51B power armor squads at key bunkers, assault RON patrols weaving through no man's land, and railgun emplacements calibrated for hypersonic anti-tank fire. Precisely. We'll layer defenses, your infantry holds the trenches, augmented by our pulse rifles, units that punch through Imperial plate at twice the range of your bolt actions. My 3rd Armored Division deploys M17 Lincolns here. He pointed to a ravine choke, nuclear-powered beasts with 140mm cannons that outrange their panzers. Overhead, F-44s provide constant air cover, strafing runs to shred their advances before they gain momentum. General Moreau leaned in, a tactical mind absorbing the projections with keen interest. Impressive synergy. Our Ragnite tanks excel in close-quarters brawls, but your patterns, eternal fuel. No exhaust to betray positions? We'll position them as anchors, draw the Imperials into kill zones where your lasers can melt their vanguard. The trio delved deeper, MacArthur's strategic acumen shining through as he adjusted lines, feints to lure Imperial probes into minefields laced with plasma grenades, drone swarms for real-time reconnaissance overriding radio static. We don't just defend, he emphasized, echoing his great-grandfather's ethos. We counterpunch. Once their assault falters, we push back, seize forward outposts, disrupt their supply trains. The Federation's Valor combined with American tech. It's unbeatable. Leclerc nodded gravely, tracing a red arrow's potential breach. The Imperial standard troops, conscripts and mechanized infantry, rely on sheer numbers. No exotic units here, just waves of steel and flesh. But with your power armor leading charges, we could turn their blitz into a graveyard. Moreau added, and morale, your robots inspire our men. Tireless, fearless. We've drilled joint squads, they are adapting fast. As the session wrapped, MacArthur stood tall, his presence a rallying force. Gentlemen, ladies of the line, we stand as one. The void brought us here, but destiny forges our victory. Hold fast, the storm breaks soon. Outside, thunder rumbled in the east, Imperial engines all gathering clouds. The Federal front braced, MacArthur's command a bulwark against the tide. Europa's fate balanced on this razor edge, American stars aligning with Federation waves. End of Chapter 18. Chapter 19, Whispers of Ambition. October 10, 1934 Europan calendar. Imperial forward base, Northern Gaulian border. Europa continent. In the shadowed confines of a Ragnite-lit command tent pitched amid the fog-shrouded pines of the Gaulian frontier, the air hung thick with the scent of oiled leather, gunpowder residue, and the faint, acrid tang of simmering field rations. Flickering lanterns cast elongated silhouettes across tactical maps pinned to weathered canvases, ran grizz marked in crimson, thousands Ragnite veins traced like arteries ripe for the taking. The Dree Stern's banner fluttered faintly outside, reminder of the Empire's inexorable advance, but within this isolated outpost, the focus sharpened on the vanguard's edge, Calamity Raven. Captain Dahau stood at the table's head, his tall frame, of lean, commanding presence, cutting an imposing silhouette against the lantern glow. Born around 1907 into the unyielding crucible of darksome persecution, he exuded unshakable confidence, his dignified posture and piercing gaze speaking of a leader who had dodged death's grasp countless times. His uniform, tailored yet battle-worn, bore the insignia of their mercenary pact with the Empire, a symbol of fragile alliance forged in desperation and ambition. Flanking him was Lydia Agthe, his steadfast aide, her line 175 centimeters form radiating quiet intensity. Sharp-featured and resolute, with dark hair pulled into a severe bun that accentuated her hawkish eyes, she leaned over the maps, gloved fingers tracing potential infiltration routes through Gaulian patrols. Beside her hunched Zig, the youthful firebrand, compact and wiry, his mop of unkempt hair framing a face perpetually alight with fervent energy. Assigned as Lydia's assistant, he idolized Dahau with near-reverent zeal, his quick gestures punctuating every word like sparks from flint. The prince's orders are clear, Dahau intoned, his voice a measured baritone laced with valiant certainty. We spearhead the northern thrust, guerrilla strikes to sow chaos in their rear lines, sever supply veins before the panzers roll. Ghirlandaio falls first, thousands mines next. Calamity Raven proves our worth once more. Lydia nodded sharply, her tone crisp and pragmatic. Scouts confirm Gaulian militias bolstered, American trinkets in their hands, pulse rifles glinting in drill yards. but their lines stretch thin, night raids will bleed them dry. We'll hit isolated outposts, vanish like smoke. Zig slammed a fist on the table, eyes blazing. And when Randgriz crumbles, the prince swore it, land for our people, a darksome dawn free of chains. After all we've bled for the Empire, this war's our forge. I can taste it, Captain, victory, and home. De Hau's expression remained heroic, unwavering, though a fleeting shadow crossed his features, gone in an instant, like mist before dawn. He placed a steadying hand on Zig's shoulder, his words infused with the passion that bound their ragged legion. Patience tempers the blade, Zig. Prince Maximilian's word is iron, we've carved his path through Federation mud and Gaulian thorns. Hold the vision, fields unyoked, skies unscarred by whips. Prepare the squads, dawn brings blood, dusk our legend. Lydia's gaze lingered on the map's heart, her voice softening imperceptibly. For the promise, yes. The tent fell to purposeful murmurs, charts folded, weapons checked. Hope flickered in their eyes like lantern flames, fragile, insistent, chasing the mirage of a homeland shimmering just beyond the horizon. October 12, 1934 Europan calendar. DIA Field Office, Ramazal Embassy. Administrative capital of the Atlantic Federation. Europa continent. The sterile hum of holographic displays filled the dimly lit DIA field office, buried beneath the American embassy in Ramazal's bustling heart. Secure lines buzzed with intercepts from orbital SATs and embedded assets, Ragnite encrypted chatter from Schwarzgrad, blurred photos of Imperial convoys snaking eastward. Cardinal Gennaro Borgia, Hale declared, tapping a grainy holophoto into focus. The cleric's image sharpened, a corpulent figure in opulent crimson robes embroidered with Igdist sigils, his jowly face framed by a tonsure of thinning grey hair, eyes sly beneath heavy brows. Leader within the Imperial Igdist Church, a faith venerating ancient prophecies of conquest and divine hierarchy, intertwined with the Empire's iron creed, Borgia wielded influence like a hidden blade, his sermons weaving war into holy mandate. Analyst Ensign Torres scrolled intercepts aloud, the Valkyrian stir, Europa's fires purify the weak. Borgia's missives, funneled through church coffers, millions in Ragnite bonds to tank production, narratives framing the invasion as celestial will. He's no mere priest, he's architecting a pancontinental inferno, from Gallia to the Federation's heart. Hale's jaw tightened, hazel eyes narrowing. Intercepts confirm, direct audiences with von Regin Rave, shipments masked as tithes. Why? Igdism thrives on strife, martyrs breed flocks, but this scale. A grand war to crown him prophet, or shatter rivals. Motives fogged, but his web tightens. A junior officer piped up, overlaying satellite thermals, assets tailed his envoys, Ragnite crates to Dree stern outposts. Dia's eyes are locked, wiretaps, tails. If he tips his hand. Hale nodded curtly. Relay to President House, Borgia's the shadow fueling the storm. Watch, don't strike, yet. Unravel his game, and we choke the Empire's holy vein. The holos dimmed, but vigilance burned bright. Across the ocean's divide, ambitions coiled, darksome dreams, clerical machinations, unwitting threads in the Valkyria tapestry. End of chapter 19. Chapter 20, The Iron Tide Breaks. March 1, 1935 Europan calendar. Erindene Plains, eastern border of the Atlantic Federation. Europa continent. The first light of dawn pierced the fog-shrouded Erindene Plains like a blooded blade, illuminating the chaos as the East Europan Imperial Alliance hurled itself against the Federation's defenses. Sirens wailed from Fort Bellegarde's ramparts, a clarion call drowned by the thunderous roar of Imperial artillery. Shells arced through the sky, slamming into the earth with cataclysmic force, gouts of dirt and flame erupting in chain reactions that cratered the landscape. Villages on the periphery burned, their thatched roofs collapsing in infernos, while refugees fled westward in panicked streams. Emperor von Regin Rave's Valkyrie Awakening had erupted in full fury, a blitzkrieg of unyielding might, with tens of thousands of conscripts surging forward, bayonets gleaming under the rising sun. Behind them rumbled the Panzer G tanks, their Ragnite engines belching acrid blue exhaust, treads churning the mud into a quagmire of war. Primitive biplanes droned overhead, dropping crude bombs in desperate bids for air supremacy, their pilots chanting imperial hymns over the din. In the forward trenches, Federation soldiers clad in newly manufactured combat armor, fresh from American factories, their polymer plates gleaming with unmarred precision, hunkered down alongside U.S. troops in matching gear. The armor's reinforced composites hugged their forms like a second skin, visors reflecting the incoming fire. Gripping R-91 assault rifles, they waited, hearts pounding as the Imperial horde closed. "Steady," barked a Federation sergeant, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Let them taste the void's bite." The initial clash was a maelstrom of violence. Imperial infantry charged with fanatic zeal, greatcoats flapping, officers whipping them onward with cries of, "For the Valkyrian." R-91s erupted in controlled bursts, 5.56mm rounds punching through flesh and fabric at lethal ranges. Bodies jerked and fell in the mud, blood mixing with the rain-slicked earth. An Imperial squad breached a wire entanglement, only to trigger a plasma grenade minefield, brilliant green explosions ripping through their ranks, limbs vaporizing in sizzling flashes. Screams echoed as survivors clawed at melting uniforms, the air thick with the stench of charred meat. Yet the Empire pressed on, numbers their blunt instrument. A Panzer G lumbered forward, its 150mm cannon booming, shells cratering a trench section, burying defenders alive. Federation counter-battery fire responded, laser-guided artillery from upgraded batteries raining down with unerring accuracy. One shell struck a tank's turret, detonating its magazine in a fireball that hurled debris skyward, shrapnel scything through nearby infantry. Deeper into the fray, as the Imperials overran an outer perimeter, they encountered the horrors from the void. From camouflaged revetments, assaultrons activated with a mechanical hiss, sleek bipedal frames blurring into motion. An Imperial platoon froze in terror at the sight, metal demons with glowing crimson visors, limbs unfolding like predatory insects. "What sorcery is this?" gasped a conscript, rifle trembling. The assault-ron cloaked briefly, vanishing in a shimmer, then reappeared amid their ranks, razor claws slashing throats in silent arcs, head laser firing agile beams that bored through chests, cauterizing wounds in instants. Blood sprayed as soldiers fired wildly, bullets sparking off alloy plates. "It's alive!" "Kill it!" screamed an officer, only for a claw to impale him mid-command. Sentry bots wheeled into the open, hulking tri-wheeled monstrosities over 2 meters tall, armored shells venting steam. Their arrival elicited outright panic, Imperials pointing in horror at the rolling fortresses with spinning Gatling lasers. "By the ancients, it's a machine from hell," one shouted, voice breaking. The bots opened fire, tri-barrels whirring to life, crimson lances hosing across the advance. Infantry dissolved in sprays of gore, limbs severed cleanly as the robots advanced relentlessly, shoulder missiles loosing cluster grenades that bloomed into firestorms, engulfing squads in roaring explosions. T-51B power armor squads strode forth next, towering exoskeletons pounding the earth like mechanical titans. An Imperial heavy tank, a colossal beast with riveted armor and a 180mm main gun, targeted one, turret grinding as it fired. The shell screamed through the air, impacting the T-51B's chest plate with a deafening crack, smoke billowing, the ground shuddering. Nearby Imperial infantry, huddled in the tank's shadow, grinned viciously, expecting the night to crumple. But as the haze cleared, the power armor stood unscathed, armor plating absorbing the blow without a scratch. The Marine inside shook it off, visor flaring as he charged. "Impossible, the shell hit true," stammered a soldier, faces draining of color, weapons dropping in shock. The soldier leveled an M2 Browning, .50 caliber rounds thundering in a barrage that shredded the tank's escorts, while a shoulder missile streaked out, detonating the Panzer's engine in a Ragnite-fueled inferno. Vertibirds thundered overhead, VTOL gunships tilting for attack runs, miniguns chattering from doors, raking Imperial lines in storms of lead. Missiles pods unleashed hell, anti-tank warheads punching through hulls with explosive fury. F-44 fighters dove from the clouds, afterburners roaring as they strafed with 20mm cannons, bombs carpeting tank formations in precision blasts. Biplanes disintegrated in fireballs, outclassed relics against the jet's supersonic dominance. The battle raged through the morning, Imperials gaining bloody yards only to lose them in counterattacks. But as noon approached, the horizon darkened with the Empire's desperation. A horde of panzers crested the ridges, hundreds strong, a steel tsunami threatening to drown the defenses. Turrets traversed, cannons barking in unison, shells hammering American positions. AT-51B squad faltered under concentrated fire, one suit finally breaching as Ragnite rounds found joints. MacArthur's command bunker shook. "They're committing the reserves, hold the ridge at all costs." His voice crackled over comms, "Fat Man teams, deploy. God forgive us, unleash hell." Heavy weapons squads in fortified nests shouldered the M42 launchers, nuclear catapults loaded with mini-nukes. Fire. Triggers pulled, subcharges ignited, warheads arcing skyward in lazy parabolas. The first impacts were apocalyptic, mushroom clouds blooming amid the tank horde, shockwaves flattening infantry, blasts vaporizing clusters of panzers in incandescent fury. Hulls melted into slag, treads fused, crews incinerated in nuclear fire explosions chained, Ragnite stores cooking off in secondary blasts that lit the plains like a second sun. March 3, 1935 Europan calendar. Imperial Command Post, Rear Echelon. Erinden Plains. General Konrad Volkhardt stormed through his armored command wagon, a massive Ragnite-powered Leviathan rumbling behind the lines. Germanic and unyielding, his square jaw clenched beneath a cropped beard, steel-gray eyes glaring at aides as dispatches piled up. "Push harder." The Valkyrie demanded, "break their spine." But the radio crackled with hysteria, "Herr General." Mini-final flames erupting, final blasts like Valkyria legends reborn. Blue infernos swallowing our panzers whole, battalions vanishing in light. The machines, they won't die. Reinforcements, send the reserves, or we're. Volkhardt seized the handset, roaring, "Report clearly." What madness, a ominous whistle built outside, the wagon lurching. A Fat Man round detonated nearby, the blast wave crumpling the hull like tin. Shrapnel screamed through, one fragment piercing Volkhardt's skull mid-sentence. He collapsed in a spray of blood, eyes wide in final shock, the radio tumbling from his grasp amid the dying echoes of Imperial ambition. Across the vast frontier, from mist-shrouded northern hills to southern marshes choked with wreckage, the pattern held, Imperial assaults blunted, advances minimal at ruinous cost. Thousands perished to American precision, robots reaping harvests of death, power armor enduring barrages, Fat Mans turning armored tides to molten ruins. Vertibirds harried fleeing columns, F-44s bombing supply trains into oblivion. By week's end, the front solidified into a stagnant scar, craters smoking, fields littered with twisted steel and silent forms. The Valkyrie awakening had stalled, choked by the void's unyielding might, Europa's fate hanging in precarious balance. End of chapter 20.